Hi, and welcome to this special student edition of Let's Talk Data. In this episode, we take a break from our usual mission to explore technology ideas relevant to enterprises, and instead dedicate a full episode to helping the young and upcoming cybersecurity minds of tomorrow. We want to share our security team's knowledge and personal experiences. We're fortunate enough in this episode to have our Proact cybersecurity operations lead, Euan Birch, with us. Euan has walked the path from university cybersecurity student all the way to leading security teams in a 24/7 security operations center environment. Joining Euan is Professor Jackie Riley. She's been running cybersecurity courses for over 15 years and has currently over 500 students. Interestingly enough, Euan himself was a student of Jackie's. So that obviously makes Jackie Yoda and Euan a Jedi. Together with this rebel alliance, we'll have to shed some light on a typical student's path through university into the security work environment. We'll offer some useful hints and tips, describe a typical day in a live security operations center, and discuss the many different options available for progression in this ever-expanding field. And as always, I hope you learn something new and that you'll enjoy the show. All right, so Euan, you're like Luke Skywalker, who's traveled to the Dagobah system, been trained by Jackie Yoda, and now you're fighting the dark side, in Proact Security Operations Center. How did Yoda get her knowledge, and how did you stay updated and ahead in this rapidly evolving security sphere that we're in, where new threats arise every day, and the feeling, I guess, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that the dark side is one step ahead seems to be, always present. So that's actually a question to Jackie. How do you stay updated in this world?
Continuous reading, lots of industry reports, lots of professional certifications. You have to stay that one pace ahead, and it is. It's a great thing about cyber. It's a community, and everybody's there supporting and helping, developing. So being involved within the community and keeping a pace through reading the latest alerts that come out a daily basis.
Yeah. So I mean, that must be as you said, on a daily basis. You must really be living in this cybersecurity world if you are going to be able to stay on top of things, I guess.
Yeah, it takes a lot of dedication and passion, and that's one of the things that we say to the students. You're not just going to come on this programme and get your degree and learn what we teach you. It is about being embedded in living cybersecurity, because it really does take that to be keeping a pace of everything that's happening out there. Organised crime is investing billions of money, of man-hours every day. When you imagine an organisation, they have a small part of it is responsible for security. But within the organised crime, national threats, etc., these guys, this is their full-time job. And so you're trying to compete with someone who is full-time being a threat actor. And therefore, it's a hard challenge. You also, you don't want the students to go down these paths. You want them to stay with their white hat and make sure that they are acting in the best ways possible. And that starts from before we have them in the door, right through the whole time that they're with us, instilling that ethos of ethical behaviour, responsibility for your actions and so on.
All right.
And that's really, it's really key. Like when you first come in, that what's out there. Like that there's people that are going to be trying to, potentially recruit you into, doing something that you don't want to do, especially early on in your career, when you're just starting out, and that could be, you do something wrong, and that could be you're faced with, a jail sentence and fines and penalties and that type of thing. But
or super rich.
Or super rich. But But you're totally right, and the organised crime world, they're spending so much money on it, because there's lots to be made. Ransomware itself, in previous years, 2019, for example, was worth $1 billion. $1 billion. Like, it's just mad. It's mad money, and they know that they can make money out of it, so that's why they're doing it. And they work different times to us. I work 9 to 5. And that's my normal hours. Okay, people in my team do 24/7, are working round the clock, and that's the key. You need people working round the clock because they're working round the clock as well, and they know that we're not going to be in the office, say at 9 to 5, or the normal IT person is. So that's why we end up with people working all the time to try and stop them, because it's happening all the time.
Right. Well, really is a cyber warfare kind of going on at all times around the clock and around the year. So Euan, what was your, how do you keep up to date with these things as working as a security professional specialist at Proact SOC, having been a student to Jackie, who obviously goes to update her certifications and keeps up with things?
Well, when I was a student, I did studenty things like staying in bed too long and getting to lectures as much as possible, but at the same time being like, right, I need to find my own way. I need to find other things that I'm excited in. Part of that for me was extracurricular activities. So it was taking on being part of the GCU Ethical Hacking Society. It was starting up a business on my own and trying to find my own way of doing things, and trying to understand what the business was like, what was out there, what were people wanting, and also trying to sort of find your feet. There's so many different jobs and specialisms that people can go into in cybersecurity, and it's such a big world and so many different things that you can do that you could decide, I want to be a cybersecurity specialist. Great. What type of cybersecurity specialist do you want to be? Exactly. What do you want to specialize in? And it's good to get a good grounding in everything, and that's what GCU gives us. So, we have SOC Yodas who are engineers, and they know everything about everything. They know all the different, security technologies, and they know exactly what goes on, and they know lots about the industry. And that's what you learn when you're at university. You start with those underpinnings of learning about different technologies, learning about what you can move into and what you can do afterwards, and where the opportunities lie. And you begin to, you might not know what you're doing when you first go into university. You might not know what you want to get out of it, but hopefully towards the end, you start thinking about, I know what I want to do.
Right. You mentioned the Ethical Hacking Society there. That extracurricular activity is key for students, because not only through that are you meeting other people who are involved in the industry, but you're challenging yourself. There's lots of competitions are set up for students to engage with, capture the flag type competitions. And if you're challenging yourself against the technologies and against other people, then that's a fantastic learning experience. So I'm sure Euan will have taken part in quite a few of them over his time.
Hackathons, yeah. And sometimes it's good, for us as industry people to go out to those hackathons and see what people are doing, see what the students are doing, understand, who's coming through and what they're up to, and find things from a different perspective, because it's often when you've got that freedom of being a student that you can go and investigate and do things that just you want to do. Whereas when you're on a job, you've got certain things in your day that you need to get on with. So it's really good. The students sometimes have some great ideas that you haven't thought of, because you've not maybe had the same freedom as they have to think of those things. Right.
So how was your path, Euan Skywalker's path in this Dagobah system that is Glasgow Caledonian University? What was the foundation like, and how did you come to that specialty that you've then chosen?
Well, Euan Skywalker probably started off as more of a, Han Solo, and not quite sure what to do or where to go, but, knew that they were roughly following the right path, and, getting into a bit of bother here and there, and not quite, making things as smooth as they could be. but at the same time, getting to the right place in the end. So for me, I started off when I was at school thinking, what do I like best at school? Well, I like computers best at school. So probably a computing thing. And then deciding, well, I quite like coding. So I guess I'll give that a go. So I went and did software development at college. I then decided that I didn't like coding. And decided to change path a little bit. So coding is good, but it's not really my speciality. I'm not so great at it. I'm better at other things like understanding processes and governance and people, and how to make things work within an organization. So from that, I started to go, well, actually, okay, coding's not going to work for me. Is there anything else out there that's interesting? And cybersecurity was up and coming at the time. The course in GCU was brand new. It was something exciting. It was in the news constantly. And I thought, you know what, I'll give cybersecurity a go. And I absolutely loved it. From day one, I absolutely loved it. And just knew that was the path that I wanted to follow. And I'm sure I could have ended up in other places doing things I absolutely love, but that was the path that I ended up on, and I think it's amazing. And here I am now at Proact, part of our SOC team, part of all of the fantastic Skywalkers that we have in our department, as well as our Yodas who keep us right.
Perfect, thank you. That actually brings me into the SOC and the other Skywalkers, because Luke Skywalker has a team, right? And I guess you're obviously specialized in some areas, whereas you have your other team members like Han Solo and Princess Leia and so on. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Like what do you do, and what do the other team members do to complete each other, and how? What does a day at the SOC look like?
A day at the SOC is never the same, ever. It's always so different, and it's up and down, and it changes, and we have good days and bad days, just like anyone in any organisation. And so for us, we start off the day with a morning meeting. We get together, we say what's going on, what happened last night, because obviously people were working last night. So when we start the morning off like that, we have a bit of a handover, tell us what was going on, figure out what the threats are. And then from there onwards, it's about setting our plan for the day. So what's today's agenda? What threats are we looking at? Have we got any vulnerability intelligence in anything that's happening in the world? Has anyone seen anything on the Reddit and Twitter feeds, which can be so important as well? So we start looking into that type of stuff, and it's building out from there. So that's basically our SOC operations people. That's our operations team, our L1s, our L2s, our L3s. They begin to work all that magic together so that they build up what's our day going to look like. From there, it's about talking to the engineers. What system improvements have we got? Have we got new customers today? Have we got to go and deal with a big vulnerability, or is today a nice quiet day where we can be working on some improvement type tasks? And we build out from there with them as well. But that's just the start of the day. Once you hit the middle of the day, it could have totally changed. You could have a big, massive, priority one incident where you need to jump on it straight away. Somebody could be hacking from the here, somebody could be hacking from there, and we have to go and deal with it. But yeah, it's so different. It just depends. One of our analysts at the moment is working on doing some great Python scripting for us, which is fantastic. Another one's working on putting in some new alarms and, getting our capability of what we can do within the SOC up. And then our engineers, they're working on bigger projects like, new tooling and that type of thing. So it's constantly different, and we've just got to be ready to adapt to whatever gets thrown at us within the day.
That sounds very exciting, actually. I mean, do you feel that you had a good foundation of the knowledge that you needed? Like, how did you reflect on from becoming a Jedi and graduating and suddenly finding yourself at Proact SOC?
It's probably when I was coming through, there was probably two paths that you thought about when you were in university. You thought, am I going to be in digital forensics and working with law enforcement and the police and these types of organizations to identify, criminals and find evidence and take that to court and that type of thing? Or you thought, I'm going to be one of these, big, sexy red team pen testers where I'm breaking into buildings and, knocking on people's doors and trying to find vulnerabilities and stuff. And what I didn't realize is that along with the red team stuff and the forensic stuff, there's this kind of blue team area. And the blue team is defending against what's happening out there and keeping up to date and understanding what's going on in the industry and beginning to really think about, right, there's people trying to get in, how do we stop them getting in? And that's where I ended up in at Proact. And I probably didn't know too much about it, but I learned very, very quickly because we have some really good people here that want to, build up our capability and make things, make things exciting, keep the projects coming, keep the customers coming, and keep making things, different, introduce new services that do different things. And so I've probably found myself thrown in the deep end a little bit, but gradually when you're thrown in the deep end, you start learning. And it's the same as being at university. You're just taking information in constantly and you're trying to interpret it and change it into, what you think the future should look like. And that's a great thing at Proact. We really do allow people to kind of go out and do their own thing. We, let them off the leash a bit and say, right, go and do your job, but also think about things that are better and bring ideas to the table. We hear senior management saying it all the time. We want to hear your ideas. It's not just your manager, it's everyone. Everybody wants to know new things. And that's a big part of our culture, which helps us to, I think, to succeed in the industry.
Right. Okay. So Jackie, I mean, you being the professor in the subject, I guess you have to have this broad understanding of the total, like the whole security landscape, but I guess you have your favorite areas in there as well. What does engage you the most?
So it's the thing about cyber. It is just so wide, and the concept that you can go into so many different avenues, all within the banner of cyber. Like Euan was saying there about the red teams and the blue teams, and there's purple teams as well now, kind of thing. If you're fed up with and, getting bored with a particular area that you're in, you can move quite easily. So recently my move has been more into the governance side of security. So that's looking at the frameworks that organisations work towards, looking at the accreditations like ISO, British standards that organisations are working in. So it's trying to merge the technical side of the controls to keep organisations safe with the governance side that makes sure that third parties are doing what they're meant to do, as well as having all the technical backups, and therefore you're minimising the risk that the organisation is facing through having defence in depth. So all of these utilising all the strategic controls as well as the technical controls. So yeah, my latest venture has been more towards a governance perspective, which is as vast as all the other areas are within cyber. So without one aspect, it's hard to understand and know the other aspects. So you don't know how to minimise the risk to an organisation just by applying strategic controls, so you have to understand the technical controls that can be in there as well. So yeah, right. Great variety of work. And I think it's something that we say to the students as they're coming to us. Everyone has that idea of someone in a hoodie and hacking, and that's just one tiny aspect of what cybersecurity is, and really making them aware of the range of opportunities and seeing them develop as they go is great satisfaction, great job satisfaction from an academic's perspective, to see students fulfil. And like Euan said there, he kind of started off and he thought he might set up his own business. Increasingly we're seeing students setting up their own businesses as they go out. And given that it's a few years now since GCU started their degrees, we're now seeing students, either leading organisations, becoming heads of security in organisations, and they're feeding back into the university all the time, which is great. So we had Euan along to, talk to the current students about his experiences, and it's that cycle and the community support from everyone in the community that's really beneficial.
So interesting. The output of the university comes back and feeds back into the university's knowledge base, and that is also one stream of updates and knowledge sharing that seems to be. I didn't think of that. That's great, actually. Keeping the students in the loop, or looping them back in.
Yeah. And
in a way,
the current students benefit so much from that. And that's, the partnership that we have with Proact has been great. They've supported us in the development of our SOC lab within the university. And you started off by talking about how do we keep up to date, and the input from industry back into the university as well certainly helps us to achieve that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I absolutely love some of the stories that we get back from some of the students. And, when people come and they ask for your advice and your help, and they say that, they enjoyed speaking to you, it feels really, really good that you've been able to help someone and maybe guide their career a little bit, because I remember people doing that for me and it being really important. So I certainly hope that anyone that leaves the university wants to have that engagement and still help people and, inspire them to, get on in whatever they want to do in their careers. And particularly within the Ethical Hacking Society that they had at GCU, there was a lot of people that still stay in touch and they still talk to each other. They have, Discord servers set up to talk. They have Facebook groups. So it's great that just continues. And it also gives, us as Proact or people within industry, the opportunity to say, well, actually, we've got a job here. Does anyone fancy that? And you hear, who's doing what and that type of thing. So it helps feed into industry as well. You can figure out who the good students are and who's engaged and who's doing certain things and has particular skills that you're looking for and that you want to bring into your organization.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like to be a security student or a successful IT security, cybersecurity student, you have to adopt the lifestyle. And that lifestyle begins as soon as you step your foot into the door, kind of, or before. And in a way, you're already in the IT security sphere from day one, because of the market being so invested back into the university compared to many other educational paths. I mean, you're kind of already in the market of cybersecurity before you graduate. It's been great having you on, Euan Skywalker and Jackie Yoda. It's been extremely interesting, and I wish you good luck in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nico Vader.
Thank you. Got me there.